Greetings, fellow adventurers. I am Cedric Ironbook, and today I've got quite the tale to share. As you journeyed through the vast landscapes of Cosmodan, perhaps on the back of a trusty griffin, did your gaze ever fall upon the wreckage of a gnome aircraft nestled within the Ironforge Mountains? Did you find yourself, even for a moment, curious about the untold tale behind this fateful crash? Today, my fellow adventurers, I shall unveil the mysteries that shroud this enigmatic event. After my recent escapades in the Stranglethorn jungle, I was taking a well-deserved breather. Suddenly, Whiskey Slim, the Gnome Gambler, arrived, clutching an unmistakably important scroll in his hand.
Hey there, wake up! This just arrived from Ironforge, and it looks mighty important. You'd best give it a read, friend.
Accepting the scroll from Whiskey, I couldn't miss the emblem of the Ironforge King, a clear indicator of the urgency of the message within. It beckoned me back to the dwarven city, where a critical matter awaited my attention. While the precise mission remained undefined, the urgency of the situation was unmistakable. I promptly arranged for a griffin to Ironforge and departed immediately, leaving the dense jungle behind me. Upon my arrival at Ironforge, I promptly requested an audience with the king. During our meeting, I was briefed on the issue at hand. A week ago, a gnome pilot was sent to Menethil Harbor in his flying machine. His mission? To pick up a night elf ambassador who had just arrived by boat. This ambassador had vital information for the Ironforge King, so the gnome pilot had to make sure he reached Ironforge safely. Their flight path was supposed to take them through the Ironforge Mountains, which were not known for being particularly perilous. Yet neither the gnome pilot nor the night elf ambassador made it to Ironforge, leaving the king deeply concerned. The king entrusted me with the vital mission of unraveling this mystery and uncovering the events that unfolded during their journey. He was keen to avoid any potential diplomatic complications between the elves and dwarves, making the task all the more crucial. Following my king's orders, I geared up to confront the unforgiving cold and relentless mountain winds. Fully prepared, I set out on my expedition. My initial objective was to inquire with the mountain dwarf farmers in the wetlands to determine if they had witnessed or heard the flying machine. These farmers lived on the mountainside between Ironforge and Menethil, and I reached them by traveling our well-constructed dwarven roads. The flying machine had indeed been seen last week, soaring over the farmers and heading in the direction of Ironforge. It seemed likely that the aircraft had indeed followed the path above the dwarf mountains. The moment had come for me to begin my ascent, determined to unravel the enigmatic disappearance of the aircraft and its passengers. I kept ascending, higher and higher. The cold was severe, but being a dwarf, I was resilient against its bite. I also had to be extremely cautious, as any missteps could lead me to my death. As my hope began to wane, and the belief of ever finding a trace of the aircraft faded, suddenly it appeared before my eyes. The flying machine lay in ruins, a stark testament to its violent descent. As I neared the crash site, I carefully scoured the area for clues, hoping to unravel the mysteries that had unfolded on that fateful day. Yet, amidst the wreckage, there was no trace, neither of life nor death, of the gnome pilot and the elven ambassador. Suddenly, my attention was drawn to something beneath the crash site, something concealed beneath the snowy expanse. Amidst the scattered equipment strewn about the crash site, I stumbled upon a lifeless form, or more accurately, what remained of a skeleton. The skeletal remains were undoubtedly that of a gnome, strongly suggesting it was the missing pilot. However, an anomaly stood out in this scene. Embedded in the standard shield of the air gnomish force, the one every pilot had in their cockpit, was an arrow. It was unmistakably of elvish make. Questions swirled in my mind. What had transpired here at the crash site? Where had the elvish ambassador vanished to? There was no trace of any other lifeless body nearby. Could it be possible that he was still clinging to life, concealed in the midst of this enigmatic situation? With determination, I resolved to explore the area above the crash site, carefully searching for any potential clues or signs of the missing ambassador's presence. Initially, my efforts yielded nothing. The pristine white landscape seemed to conceal all traces, and despite the favorable weather conditions, I struggled to find any leads. However, amidst the frigid expanse, something gradually caught my eye. Clear impressions emerged in the snow, resembling unmistakable imprints of either a human or elvish form. The tracks in the snow went uphill, heading towards the summit of Ironforge Mountain. My next move was to follow these tracks, eager to discover if they would ultimately lead me to the elusive night elf ambassador waiting at the mountain's peak. Near the mountain's pinnacle, the biting cold was relentless. Survival seemed improbable in this desolate place. Finally, I arrived at the end of the tracks, standing at the mountain's very summit. It was here that I discovered him. The Night Elf ambassador had succumbed to the bitter cold, leaving behind only his skeletal remains. It was clear from the presence of a rope and a shovel that he had made desperate attempts to survive, but the unforgiving environment had ultimately claimed his life. Beside the lifeless remains, I stumbled upon an empty bottle. To my astonishment, inside it was a small scrap of paper, its handwriting miraculously preserved from the icy chill. The words on the paper read as follows.
The gnomish pilot turned out to be a traitor aligned with the Defias Brotherhood. His sinister intentions became clear immediately after takeoff from Menethil, as he attempted to forcibly eject me from the airplane. Reasoning with him was futile, so I engaged in a fierce struggle within the cockpit. During our violent tussle, he lost control of the aircraft, resulting in a harrowing crash against the mountainside. When I finally regained consciousness, I had no other recourse but to fight for my survival. Fortunately, I had brought my trusty bow on the plane, and with it, I knocked 2 arrows. 2 shots were all it took. One pierced his shield, and the other found its mark in his heart. The treacherous gnome was dead, but I sensed that my fate would soon follow. I was ill-prepared for the brutal cold of the dwarven mountains, and the freezing chill seemed to seep into the very core of my being. Lost, fearful, and injured, my final glimmer of hope lay in catching a glimpse of the welcoming dwarven lights of Ironforge. With that goal in mind, I ascended to the mountain summit, where I now pen these last words. Here, I meet my end, far from my homeland, far from the embrace of my kin. May my soul ultimately find solace in the great beyond.
So, this concludes the story of the mysterious crash in the Ironforge Mountains. A valiant night elf, betrayed by a gnome pilot, met his solitary end in the unforgiving cold, a world away from his homeland. May the memory of the fallen night elf ambassador serve as a testament to the perils of treachery and the enduring quest for peace.